Ladies and gentlemen of the press, all this work is essential, but it doesn't address the root cause of all this human suffering, the war itself. This war must end, and peace must be established in line with the Charter of the United Nations and international law. Many leaders have made many good efforts to stop the fighting, but these efforts so far have not succeeded. And I'm here to say to you, Mr. President, and to the people of Ukraine, we will not give up. As we keep pushing for a full-scale ceasefire, we will also keep striving for immediate practical steps to save lives and reduce human suffering. Effective humanitarian corridors, local cessations of hostilities, safe passage for civilian and supply routes. Today, the people of Mariupol are in desperate need for just such an approach. Mariupol is a crisis within a crisis. Thousands of civilians need life-saving assistance. Many are elderly, in need of medical care, or have limited mobility. They need an escape route out of the apocalypse. During my visit to Moscow, President Putin agreed in principle to the involvement of the United Nations and the International Committee for the Red Cross in the evacuation of civilians from the Azovstal plant in Mariupol. Today, President Zelenskyy and I had the opportunity to address this issue. And as we speak, there are intense discussions to move forward on this proposal to make it a reality. Finally, let me say that in many ways we are at ground zero for the world we need to build. A world of respect for international law, the UN Charter and the power of multilateralism. A world that protects civilians. A world that advances human rights. A world where leaders live up to the values that they have promised to uphold. That too is a struggle, but it is one that we must win for the sake of every country, community and person around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Now you may have a chance to ask the questions. Please, 1+1 channel. Dmitro Furtak, 1+1 channel. The question to President Zelenskyy. On Saturday, you've had an emotional statement and you were dissatisfied with the fact that the UN Secretary-General will go first to Moscow and then to Ukraine. But when today the Secretary-General has been to Bucha, to Borodyanka, are you satisfied with the position? Have you changed your mind? Can you see the practical assistance coming from the UN, particularly with regards to UN?
UN Secretary-General, you have been to Moscow just recently and spoke to the biggest war criminal of the 21st century, the head of the biggest gas station of planet Earth, Mr. Putin. You've looked into his eyes, and now he told you obviously something, and now you're here in Ukraine and you've seen what he has done around Kiev and around Ukraine. Do you see any chance, any practical chances that the world can stop him, especially with his continuous threats to use the nuclear weapons? Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Briefly, I do believe that today Ukraine is a priority, and I believe that these or that leaders, powerful leaders who solve many important tasks in the world, particularly related to the protection of human rights and human lives. They have to be in Ukraine, they have to visit Ukraine. This is my personal point of view, and I'm grateful to the Secretary-General for being here, for coming to Kiev. And one of the major issues that we've discussed today, this is the violation of human rights in Ukraine by the Russian Federation, and what we can do, what the UN can do in order to deblock the Azov steel factory, in order to save lives of the people. And today we've dedicated much of our time to discuss this issue, and I will trust and I will believe, just as many relatives of those people who are blocked in Azov steel, that the Secretary-General and I, and we will be able to have a successful result that is safe people back.
I have to say that what I said in Moscow, what I said here, and what I say in New York is exactly the same. Probably you have heard my press conference with Minister Lavrov. The speech was very similar to this one. You have eventually see the part that the Russian television has given of the conversation between President Putin and myself. And you heard me saying to President Putin the same things I said myself. So it is being coherent with the defense of the values of the UN and the values of the UN Charter. And one of the values of the UN and the UN Charter is that the territorial integrity of countries must be respected. This is fundamental from the point of view of international law. And I hope that, as in everything else in life, law will prevail.
Дякую, будь ласка, швейцарська.
Thanking now the Switzerland TV company.
President Zelenskyy, could you please say what are actually the security guarantees you were asking from the Russian Federation for the humanitarian corridor out of Mariupol? And Mr. General Secretary, could you please tell us a little bit more about the general principle what Mr. Putin agreed on when you met him in Moscow a few days ago? And what will the UN do if the Russian Federation is violating these general principles the President agreed on? Thank you very much.
May I first?
Yeah, please.
Madam, what do you want? Do you want the people to be rescued, or do you want me to say something that will be an obstacle to that rescue? At the present moment, I can only tell you we are doing everything we can to make it happen. I'm not going to enter into any comment that would undermine that possibility, because my first and only priority is the people that suffer and the people that must be rescued. That's exactly what you want, is to me to say things that would not facilitate the work we are doing at the present moment, is to guarantee that that happens. I cannot admit that it will not happen. If it will not happen, I will take the right decisions at the right moment.
And about the time frame, you can say anything about the time frame?
Again, no. I am working with only one objective, not to shine in the media. I'm being very boring to the media on purpose, because the only way to ensure the rescue of people is to be boring to the media, because we have enough difficulties by themselves.
The major security guarantees for me, after losing 500,000 people of Ukraine who were deported from Ukraine to Russia. And according to the official statements by Russian media, they said that they've hosted 1 million of Ukrainians already. And we know that 500,000 people were deported by force to Russia. So my major objective is to make sure that those people would be alive, would not be slaves, and would be able to make a choice by themselves where to go. And the final question from Interfax. Interfax Ukraine. I have a question to Secretary-General. First, you told us today that UN Security Council has not fulfilled the functions as some would expect of that. Then how would you need to reform the United Nations organization in order for that organization to be effective in settling the conflicts and not to follow the path of the League of Nations. And a question to the President of Ukraine. Just recently we talked about the pseudo-referendum in the Kherson region. It did not happen. On the other hand, we had an information on preparation of referenda in DPR and LPR on becoming part of Russia. And in some cases, some of the teachers saying that Mariupol is a part of Russia. What would be your response to that?
As I said, the UN is not only the Security Council. The UN is also the General Assembly. And the General Assembly was clear in this regard. And the UN are all the men and women that are working in different parts of the world to support people that are victims of war, that are victims of conflict. I have not the power to reform the Security Council. I have no illusions about the possibility to do it immediately. But I will do everything I can through making the UN as effective as possible in situations like these, to at least compensate for a failure that I cannot solve. And you can be sure of our total commitment to support the Ukrainian people in this difficulty, and to our permanent voice asking for the end of this war, and the end of this war in respect for international law and in respect for the Charter of the United Nations.
There could be many more of those pseudo-referenda. Some would remain only theoretical, some not. Should we start looking from the Crimean situation and many others, Ukraine will not recognize those referenda, and the whole civilized world will not recognize those referenda. I believe that you cannot accede or you can have any of the territory of Ukraine to be part of Russia by force. We've managed to find the tanks, and people managed to find the tanks, and so they will not accept any of the people who are trying to prepare for referenda. So this is yet another complexity towards any possible negotiations between Russia and Ukraine at any level. I'm very abstract at this, and I would really like to have a lot of specifics, but still it serves only as the complexity. There are many issues of a humanitarian aspect. There is this issue with food security, which is not related only with us, but with the global countries. There's a lot of issues. If we want to complicate all those issues for the whole Europe, for the whole world, then you can continue playing with those referenda. They will bring no result, both theoretically and both from the historical standpoint. Thank you, President. Thank you, Secretary-General. This is the end of the press conference.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.